Hello everybody and welcome to Cinemattraction. I'm your host Heat Guy J, and with me as always is Cold to the Bone Deagle. Deagle. Oh, Mrs. Deagle. Oh, we love Mrs. Deagle.
What have you been watching this week?
Oh, well, I have been, apart from the film, rewatching the amazing films that we're going to talk about.
Indeed.
I saw the very average, very forgettable, very vapid Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves.
Dungeon and Dragon.
It's got all your favourite actors in. Chris Pine.
No.
Tick. Michelle Rodriguez, who always plays strong woman, like she's barbarian in this one.
Oh.
She's like a barbarian woman.
Okay.
Then you've got the enigmatic Hugh Grant.
I love Hugh Grant.
So I'm like, well, what's he going to do? Is he doing his evil, like, hello lads, I'm evil. I'm Guy Ritchie, yeah? Or is he doing the, oh, hello everybody, I'm the suave. And he was doing his suave one. He was doing his suave. Yeah. He was the villain in it, which was really odd because I was like, I'm having real trouble picturing you as a villain.
Lovely Hugh Grant as a villain.
Yes, because he's not. Yeah.
I like Hugh Grant.
I mean, I could see him as a villain when he was in Cloud Atlas because he was really good in the, the apocalyptic bit. He was brilliant in that. But it's a very.
If you're interested, we did talk about Cloud Atlas in our very first episode.
It's a very forgettable, high budget, big summer blockbuster that no one is. It's got a really high rating on Letterboxd. I was really surprised.
Sure.
I don't know why.
I don't know anything about the game, so it might be really close
But
to
it
the
has
game.
got, in the film, which I really enjoyed, a little cameo of, the kids from the cartoon, the D&D cartoon years ago.
Yes.
They've got them in a trap.
What?
In a section of the film, they've been trapped in this cage.
What?
And you've got all the kids dressed up. Like the little boy who had like the horned helmet, and the little boy who dressed like the wizard.
Right. I remember the little wizard. He had like he
was like a nerdy boy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
With glasses. Yeah.
Sure.
You've got all them, and they're all trapped, and they're going, "Help me, help me!" And they're saying that like to Chris Pine and that.
Are they animated?
No,
they're actual people.
They're actual people playing those ones from the cartoon.
Okay, fine.
And gelatinous cube that I like to see people go into.
Okay. I don't know anything you're talking about in this movie. But
I don't know anything about D&D, to be honest with you. So
yeah, you got to roll the dice every once in a while. Don't you? Best thing I've seen this week was Odds Against Tomorrow, which is a really good noir thriller with Harry Belafonte.
Oh yes,
I love Harry Belafonte.
Banana Boat song.
Banana Boat. It's a protest song, isn't it? Daylight Come and I Want to Go Home.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it?
Because he was a civil rights.
Yeah. Oh, he was.
Like,
yeah.
Hardcore.
Yeah, he was.
I think like the KKK tried.
Because he was in. He was in Black Klansman, wasn't he?
Sure, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Briefly.
When my mum saw him, she was like, "Is that Henry Belafonte?" And I'm
Henry.
like, "Huh?
Henry.
Not Hen. Yeah, she said Henry, I think, but it's Harry, isn't it?
Hi, Jackie.
You know how she's always getting names wrong.
Oh, she's
and I was like, I don't know who you're talking about. She's like, the guy, and I'm like, she's like, oh, he looks so good for his age because he was like 90 odd.
He was about 90
odd,
yeah.
Yeah. So
really good, really good noir thriller. Really, really highly recommended. Okay. If you're of a mind, it's episode 30.
Is it?
It's
big 30, dirty 30s.
Ghostbusters is a supernatural comedy from Ivan Reitman, co-written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, released in June 1984. Ghostbusters would prove to be a critical and commercial success, earning $295 million from a $30 million budget, receiving praise for its mix of comedy, horror and action, earning a spot on the Library of Congress National Film Registry for its cultural significance.
Oh, brilliant.
Spawning sequels,
questionable reboot,
numerous video games, a fantastic animated series, and numerous parodies. A quick synopsis. Columbia University parapsychology professors Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz and Egon Spengler are set up a paranormal pest control service after encountering a gruff ghost in the New York Public Library. A risky venture which struggles to get off the ground, eventually gaining notoriety and adding a fourth member, Winston Zeddemore, to the team. Cellist Dana Barrett comes into contact with the group when encountering a demonic dog creature in her refrigerator. The group find themselves under the gaze of the Environmental Protection Agency Inspector Walter Peck, who all too casually has their ghost containment unit shut down, dispersing all manner of lesser imps and demons. Meanwhile, things are kicking off at Dana's, with her home being a sort of portal for demigod Zool, a servant to a shape-shifting tyrant called Gozer the Gozerian. Dana, now well and truly possessed, allies with the equally possessed neighbour Lewis to open a big old dimensional portal above their residential building. All hell breaks loose, leading to a bizarre battle with Gozer. What do you think of Ghostbusters?
Right, well, anybody listening to this and hasn't actually seen Ghostbusters would think we're talking about a supernatural film that's probably an adult film.
Right.
Because what you've just described is pretty horrific. You know, like there's a devil dog living in a woman's fridge.
There are some horrific aspects.
The woman and her neighbour become possessed by minions of a what is it? Sumerian? Is it Sumerian god?
Yes, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not actually talking about a PG film here that was actually made in mind for the whole family, but it was.
When did you first see it?
I first saw it at the Odeon Cinema when I was 7 years old.
I was too young.
And my mum and my stepdad Tim, with my step brother and sister, we went to see it, and I saw it, and it scared the crap out of me. The devil dogs with the devil dog scene where she sits in the chair and she says, and the hands come up and she goes, and she gets pulled through the door and the door shut. That scared the crap out of me for years.
This is a film for all ages, but it could mess particularly young
if you're very
viewers
sensitive, I think. Yeah, if you're like me, you're a little bit of a pansy when you're a little boy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't mind calling myself a pansy. I was a little bit frightened of spiders, Don't want to get my hands dirty.
See, I saw it. I love a good bit of horror. I love a good spook. So I was never particularly taken with that regard to it. But I remember being a bit like, with the ghost in the library.
Oh, that was terrifying.
When I was a little man.
Do you know, the thing is, that ghost is still quite horrific.
It's brilliant. The optical effects are
brilliant.
fantastic.
I mean, the practical and special effects are absolutely brilliant for the time. They are.
Absolutely. The stalking of Slimer is also a bit unnerving when you're a kid, because it's got like that alien vibe where they're sort of being stalked.
You mean when they're in the hotel?
Through the corridors.
Well, that's one of the most famous scenes, isn't it?
It's brilliant.
Where he's standing there and he's looking at Slimer and he's like, Ray, and then he's like, he slimed me. It's one of the. I mean, I remember that was one of the first scenes they actually released on cinema shows of the film, where Ray's walking around with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth in the corridor.
Ray. Yeah,
I think Ray Stantz is brilliant, isn't he?
Excellent. We'll talk about performances in a minute.
Yeah.
There's one performance that just knocks my socks off in this film.
As I said, I went to see it at the Odeon. It scared the crap out of me. I wouldn't go upstairs on my own after we came home.
Oh God, it really messed you up.
Seriously, there was bits in it that really frightened me, and then there was bits in it that I just was delighted
Just
with, like the Stay Puffed bit,
and the juvenile humour,
the juvenile. But there's so many bits that watching as an adult,
you just appreciate
that they got away with that I didn't like when he asks the woman in the library, "Are you menstruating?" I don't honestly think they get away with saying that.
There's
in film
also
now.
a romantic copulation scene between Ray Stantz and a ghost.
There is. Yes.
How did you get away with that now?
And why do they stick that in though? Because it's
really
like
weird
in the middle of a
vigilette
sort of.
When the ghost is sort of running riot.
Yeah, and you see the Ghostbusters on the cover of magazines and all that, and then you have this intercut dream he has in between the.
Yeah. It's probably, if anything, it's actually probably
montage,
the worst,
isn't it? That's what I call it. Yeah.
It's probably the worst scene in the movie.
It's unnecessary.
Really unnecessary.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
Good man. Now, what do you think of the look of it? Because it had a really unique look.
Wonderful. I mean, again, with Terminator, you talk about Terminator, you talk about anything like that, you're talking about The Matrix. Any of those films were films that you had not seen before. Yeah, they were not like I know this Ghostbusters film. I've seen like a million copies of it, Yeah,
lots of imitators.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just so different for the time. And I think because it had the adult humour in it and the sort of more immature humour, it worked for the family.
Yeah.
Because when you were young, you didn't really know what menstruation was, so you didn't. It just went over your head. You just heard him say, "Alice, are you so and so?" And then you didn't know what the word was, so it just went over your head. But
sure, when you're older,
I love that. I love that.
There's little jokes. Like
there's loads of wonderful scenes.
Yeah, the effects kind of blew me away when I was a kid as well. Yeah. Like the miniatures and the puppet work and all that kind of stuff, and the optical effects.
The puppetry is great as well.
Some stop motion stuff is a bit janky maybe nowadays, but I like specifically Zool running after Lewis.
The devil dogs are a little. The only thing that spoils the devil dogs is the scene where it comes shooting out of Lewis Tully's apartment. That's a bit rough.
It's a bit janky, but at the same time, I don't mind it because when you've got that slow motion aspect. It gives it that kind of unique, otherworldly kind of movement. That kind.
I mean, the Devil Dog didn't look too bad when it comes out of the hotel. It shoots out of the where the guy goes, "Is something about a bear?" And then it comes shooting out. That scene doesn't actually look too bad. So, but again, this is a 1984 film. So what are we expecting? I mean, are we expecting cutting edge?
Well, no, I think it was handled by ILM, wasn't it?
Right.
I think the effects were by
Well,
ILM.
all I can say is if you want it to look better, just get George Lucas to put his CG over it. Okay. He'll come and meddle with it, and then you'll hate it.
Probably the best effect was the miniature work with Stay Puft.
Oh, miniature work's brilliant. Yeah,
because
the bit at the end with Stay Puft is fantastic.
Brilliant, but also really unnerving.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about it is the fact that Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is such an innocuous character.
Yeah.
That becomes such a sinister character. You know, it's like, I suppose it's like the Duracell bunny being something that, you know, that turns into something really, really, you know, sinister in a film. So,
it's definitely, the Duracell bunny is well sinister.
Well, it would be, wouldn't it? It would be if Gozer was inhabiting it.
But the look also feeds into, say, because it's got that kind of grounded tone.
Yes.
To it.
Yeah, it's got a real world feel about it.
It feels kind of lived in as well, but that also kind of sort of leads into like the production design, the dilapidated firehouse that becomes their base.
I mean, everybody visits that when they go to New York, don't they?
I couldn't find it.
Oh, right. I know my cousin Darren, he found it. I saw a picture of him standing outside the firehouse.
But then the last time I went to New York, I didn't have a smartphone, so I'm not sure I could.
Well, there you go.
Just me trying to walk around the biggest city in the world without
with a bit of paper,
really knowing what I was doing. But also it feeds into like the equipment of the
it has the same look lived in, lived in. Yeah, I mean, they never really explain that, do they? The accelerators. That's one thing I quite like. The fact that they don't bother going into how they make. No, they explain what it is. Well, that it's basically like a nuclear bomb on their back.
Bomb thingy.
But they don't really go into the making of how they created the ghost capturing equipment.
The blaster and the little trappy thing.
Yeah.
But you kind of just trust Egon to...
Well, yeah, you just trust that they know what they... You know, these guys are professionals, or they're trying to be professional at least.
Also, like the Ecto-1, like the old hearse. Everything has got like an old lived-in kind of...
And they put all the stuff on it, and you never even ask, how did they do it? You don't even see a montage of Ray doing the car up, do you?
No. But also, the overall, the crummy, it just... I don't know. It's also janky and raw, but it's also sort of become iconic in its own way.
Yeah, I think also because it's a very tongue-in-cheek film.
Yeah, it's very.
I think it knows that.
Textured.
And it knows it's not taking itself seriously. So you just go along with it because it's a ludicrous film, really, if you think about it.
It's very silly.
It's silly.
But there are some very interesting themes. I think we'll get to the themes in a moment. So let's talk about the actual group, the actual Ghostbusters.
Yes.
40-something scruffy nerds who start a business.
Like me.
How dare you? Scruffy, what are you talking about? You're certainly a nerd.
I am a nerd.
40-something-year-old scruffy nerds who start a business and endure many start-up difficulties and annoying bureaucracies.
Yes.
These are academics, and they use their scientific approach to it, certainly Egon, and their resources to battle supernatural forces. There's that
they use Ray's resources.
Sure, they use his money, that's for sure.
They use his... Oh, you think that's horrible, isn't it?
I was born there or whatever.
Yeah. That was the house I was born in or something, he said, didn't he?
Yeah. So what do you think of the titular?
What can you say? The Murricane.
Okay, let's talk about Bill Murray as Peter Venkman.
Wonderful.
So slimy.
Wonderful.
So sly. So sarcastic.
And the way he approaches Dana in it.
So manipulative.
Manipulative that he goes round there. He's basically wanting to sleep with her.
Oh, he's a complete scumbag.
He's a scumbag. Awful.
In terms of a leader, you wouldn't want anybody else leading the group.
No.
No. He's the standout of the whole movie.
Yes, I think so.
Opinion.
I do.
His timing, his glances, his delivery is just perfect.
Yeah.
He's also the sort of comic relief, self-aware audience vessel.
I think this was the first film I ever saw with Bill Murray in as well. Because I think before this, because I was only 7.
I think I'd seen Caddyshack before
this.
Right,
I don't think I'd seen Caddyshack.
Okay.
So I hadn't seen a lot of Bill Murray films before this. I hadn't seen Stripes.
No.
Any of those sort of things.
Sure. Scrooged was yet to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Scrooged.
Yeah.
What a career that guy
Frank Cross. That's something you nail a person to, isn't it? That's what is in his office. Cross.
There we are.
Peter, would you know somebody?
Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis allow Bill Murray to just cut loose.
Yes,
and
yeah.
deliver that performance.
Although I do think that Harold Ramis is funny in his own way because he's so deadpan in it.
Excellent.
Especially when Janine says, about like, do you have any hobbies? I collect spores, moulds, and fungus.
He's the straight man.
Yeah,
he's so straight.
He's so funny though. Yeah, he is.
He kind of grinds all the goofiness, but he is also goofy in his own way, which is kind of brilliant. What do you think of Dan Aykroyd?
Brilliant. I love Dan Aykroyd.
So childlike.
Yeah. Well, he's always kind of like that, though, isn't he?
Yeah, kind of. Have you ever seen? Is it Nothing But Trouble?
Yes, I have. Where he plays the weird mayor of that town.
Yeah,
that's a peculiar film, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got a. Just check out.
It's got Chevy Chase, hasn't it?
Yeah,
I think I've only ever seen it once, and I don't think I ever saw it again because I didn't like it. I think I didn't like it.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah,
fine.
No, Dan Aykroyd. I will always think of him as the part of the Blues Brothers because I thought he was brilliant in that.
Yeah, sure. But in this instance, he's got that kind of childlike, gee whiz kind of awe. Yeah. And that's kind of grounded by Harold Ramis's.
He's got a very naive sort of way about him, hasn't he?
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm saying is, I think that the three founders of the Ghostbusters kind of really complement each other really well.
And Winston Sedmore just needs to feed his family. He just needs a job.
It's a job. It's 11-5.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He's like, he doesn't care. I'll believe in whatever you want me to believe in. There's a paycheck.
He does believe in God, though, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Because he explains about he believes in God and Jesus.
Right.
And that he thinks all this stuff is to do with end of the world sort of thing when he's in the car talking to Ray. Yeah. And Ray just remains quite sort of quiet, doesn't he?
He does.
Just basically says, I think we need some tunes.
Goes along with it.
Yeah.
But he's the most relatable character.
Because he comes in from the outside. I think he's kind of like us. Because he's come in from the outside and he's gone into...
Bill Murray, I think also Peter Venkman, rather, is that type of character as well. He's saying the things that you're thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so. And also, he doesn't really run Ghostbusters, does he? Do you know what I mean? Like Egon and Ray Stantz sort of run the actual building and look after the ghosts, and he doesn't do any of the sort of schlepping bits where he's putting the ghosts in the machine and.
Right, but he's kind of.
I just realised that ghost in the machine, isn't it? They put a ghost in a containment unit. It's the ghost in the machine.
What do you think of Sigourney Weaver's Dana Barrett?
I thought she's really good.
So cool.
Really good. And when she gets possessed, she's so sexual.
Well, there is that to it as well, especially for such a young adolescent boy.
Well, exactly. And you're watching that and she's in that silky dress and then she's got that makeup on and you're sort of like, whoa.
There is no Dana.
No, how did Pete leave that, Pete Venkman leave that apartment? With great difficulty.
Thankfully he did, because that would have been quite a nasty assault otherwise. But her performance is completely aligned with Murray. She and him have got such a great chemistry.
They have, yeah.
They
just bounce, don't they?
So what do you think of... I personally love Rick Moranis' Louis Tully.
I don't love him, because he's kind of pathetic.
I don't know. He's a young man living on his own in
Who keeps getting locked out of his apartment.
But he's living in a palace. Like the guy and he's well connected. He's got all his mates.
He's living in a really nice apartment as well.
He's not pathetic.
Well, no, not really.
No.
He's got a really decent job.
But
he acts pathetic.
Oh, God, he's annoying as hell. But I love him.
Right.
And however that said, I would get very, very annoyed with him very, very quickly
What about
life.
Peck?
Well, let's talk about the villain of the film.
Yeah. What about that scene where Pete Venkman says to him, "You didn't say the magic word," and that look on his face before he says, "What is the magic word, Mr. Venkman?"
He's the villain of the piece.
And then he says, "Please," and he says it in the most condescending, riddled way.
Yeah.
Derisive, I should say.
Yeah, William Atherton, his performance is fantastic. He's the villain of the piece.
He's the villain of the piece from Die Hard as well. Technically, he's one of the...
But he's doing good.
He actually is.
His character is doing good.
Yes. Because anybody that says, like, environmental health is not really a bad person, are they? You know what I mean?
He's trying to do something good. He sees this as a big nuclear threat in the city centre.
So really, all the stuff that happened is really just down to Pete Venkman, isn't it? Because he could have just said, "Yeah, look, we'll show you the containment unit."
Right. It's also due to the fact that at not one point did they register any of this nuclear equipment.
I think this is the problem. I think this is the problem, yeah.
But also Annie Potts as Janine.
Oh, she's very good.
I like her.
I like how irascible she is.
Right.
She's sort of, very sort of irritated.
She's got the best lines in the movie.
Has she really?
Has she not? dropping off or picking up.
Oh,
Brilliant. What do you think of Ray Parker Jr.'s iconic?
oh, fantastic!
theme?
Do you know Ray Parker Jr. actually has the Ghostbusters theme sang on his phone, so that when his phone goes off, he knows it's only him because he's singing the Ghostbusters. So it won't be like him singing the Ghostbusters tune on somebody's phone that they've got off, off an app.
It's actually him.
It's actually him singing down his own phone.
Oh.
He's actually said about that.
That has presumably made him a
This song makes me. Do you know what? This
bajillionaire.
song makes me feel good.
It's a happy song.
Yeah, do.
Busty makes me feel
I was going to
good.
mention this. My nephew last night was playing a album for me called Super Ghostbusters, and
know it.
it is on Spotify.
Okay.
And it's by somebody called something Skeletor.
Right.
Like Velo Skeletor or something.
Catchy.
And it is horrendous. It's like somebody on a keyboard going, and then the guy's going, I went to the restaurant to get a pizza, but there was a ghost in my pizza, so I had to call Ghostbusters. And it's going,
Oh God, I would have Alexa stopped that in a half a second.
I had to listen to nearly 30 tracks, little tiny tracks of this thing, and it was weird.
Patience of a saint.
It just sounded like somebody messing around in their basement with a
probably was.
keyboard and just sound effects.
In all likelihood, it was.
But
The
this is a
thing
real
though,
thing. This is a real thing. And he even says, Ray Parker Jr., please do not sue me. He goes.
Okay, so what do you think of Elmer Bernstein's score? Which
Brilliant.
yeah,
There's
some really jaunty. It
brilliant.
complements, doesn't it? It complements the events.
I
there's
love all
also
those
some
little
really
bits.
Nice sort of spooky theremin.
Yeah.
Things like that.
You got the
strings.
and then you got the dun, which is a bit more sort of jovial, isn't it?
Yeah, jaunty.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting themes. You can't talk about this movie without talking about the themes.
Death is one of them.
Ghosts.
The afterlife.
Well, death and taxes, that's
Yes.
for sure. So I think it's very clearly. Well, I don't know if it is very clearly, but there is a satirical element to it.
Yes.
Sort of in certain retrospect, there is a sort of satirical kind of Ronald Reagan political aspect to this, of specifically deregulation. I think, because he was very much about free market and pro business and deregulation, and I don't think the filmmakers are necessarily saying positive things about that scumbag's policies.
Reaganomics.
That said, there is an independent, anti-academic or intellectual anyway, anti-authority edge to the narrative. The private small business that becomes the subject of a bureaucratic environmental agency.
Also, the other weird thing is that they're academic people, and yet they're doing a job which is a bit like a dustman. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, it's a bit like somebody with PhDs
it's
doing
pest control.
Yeah.
It's like get rid of my rats.
Exactly. And these people have, they've been going to university and got PhDs and stuff, and they're basically taking out the trash.
Yeah.
Spiritually, I mean.
Indeed. It's the free market that there are lots of different factors, but the free market helped to regenerate New York after it suffered a financial collapse. If you remember, or if you are aware, in the 1970s, sort of mid-70s, New York nearly went bankrupt.
Did it really? I didn't know that.
And it's New York coming out of that.
Right.
Year 1984. But there's an aspect of perhaps pollution and degradation. So you're coming out of that degradation of 1970s New York, when the city was obviously veering into its financial issues. You could perhaps read the Ghostbusters as being, as you were saying, like a cleanup crew of sorts, evacuating the city of its demons.
Exactly. And you wouldn't think that you would have people that were so well educated doing it. You'd have people, like you would imagine, lower educated people doing a manual job.
Yeah,
because this is a manual job.
Yeah, you could also perhaps tail off with that with gentrification as well. With the free market then suddenly New York became very, very rich very quickly again, and the gentrification casting out.
This is the thing I didn't like about
the bad entities into. But I was going to say, you could also perhaps read the Ghost as being a sort of pollution.
Okay.
The bad stuff from the
bad
past as being
elements,
a pollution.
Drugs, prostitution, stuff like that. Yeah.
Swept away or cleaned up by the Ghostbusters. So this clean-up team, as you were saying, a pollution that is consequently somewhat ironically then pumped back into the air,
right,
when the environmental agency pumps the pollution back into the air, which is quite interesting. So yeah, sorry.
I was actually surprised that this film was quite low budget, really, for the time. They were given a certain budget, and they had to make cuts and certain things because I watched documentaries about it.
$30 million budget.
Yeah, but that's not
for its time.
Well, I suppose it is, but I mean, also they took a gamble on it. You know what I mean?
It was a big gamble, for sure.
Because there would not have been a film like that, and I was quite surprised that sort of. I don't know. I suppose it wasn't as professionally thought about and executed as I thought it would be. You know?
Okay.
Because the ideas of things weren't all there. You know, there were bits where there was some ad lib. And everything wasn't in place. Everything wasn't in place. It was kind of like, right, we've got a loose script. We've got a shooting time. We've got to get this done by,
right,
and all this sort of thing to do with Ghostbusters. And I was actually surprised what a good film came out.
Well, yeah, you could really trust those. Well, certainly the Saturday Night Live performers and writers that were involved in this.
But you can see how professional they must have been to get a film this well made in the short time, because they didn't have a long time filming either.
Did they not? I don't know. How long do they have? Do you know?
I can't remember, but it wasn't a long filming schedule.
3 days.
So. I mean, it wasn't like, one of these ones where you get like Star Wars and they do like 100-day shooting or something.
It's like The Shining that took a year.
Yeah, no. So I was really surprised that such a brilliant movie that I consider stood at the test of time and is a classic.
Still amazing.
It's still amazing.
Still highly recommended.
But please do not buy the 4K, because the 4K is rubbish. Even my wife, right? She's no expert at 4K.
You lent it to me and I didn't think it was that bad.
Well, I watched it on the TV the other night and my wife looked at it and she went, "Is that the pitch? Are you watching a 4K?" I went, "Yeah." She went, "The picture's awful." Now, she's never said that about her.
I thought it was okay. What did she think was awful?
I think it's very grainy.
But it was shot on film.
Well, yes,
it's going to
but
be
it is very... Yeah, but I mean, it is very... There's not really a great setting that you can put it on that actually makes the film look incredible. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like some of the older films.
Muted tones. So you got a lot of... Yeah, in terms of 4K, you're kind of looking at the high dynamic range and things like that. So it's not got necessarily the biggest, broadest palette, eye-catching palette. So yeah, I get that. But in terms of grain, I don't have a problem.
I'm not
with
a
grain.
huge fan. I don't want it removed. I mean, I don't want it removed because I don't want it looking like a waxwork.
You don't want it all smooth.
No.
The Terminator 2 one that.
That's what I mean. And they did that with Predator as well, didn't they? On the
Blu-ray. The original Blu-ray. Yeah. Have you got it? Have you seen it?
I haven't got that one.
I will lend you that.
I think you've got that one, haven't you?
Yeah.
The Hunter edition, isn't it?
You might have it, actually.
Oh, yes, it's in the Arnie set, isn't it? Because I've got to watch.
Just whiz through to those scenes. Yeah, just stick it in and whiz through. You'll be like, oh my god.
Because I know when I bought the Blu-ray of it, I made sure I didn't buy the Hunter one. Or
whatever the was. Yeah.
I made sure I got the old version.
It's part of the set that this is really boring for our listeners, but yeah, I think it's part of the set that I gave you.
Yeah.
Just check it out. Just spin it for like 5 minutes.
I just
you'll be
wish
like, oh my god.
They would have done a really good restoration sort of for this film.
I think it looked fine to me. But yeah,
I just think it deserved a really good, because Sony 4Ks tend to look very good.
I don't.
Like Fifth Element looks really good. Looks really nice.
It does,
and natural and
You love it, that. It's very good.
Yeah, I just wish it had looked a little bit better, but I mean that's not a criteria on the actual thing, on the actual film. It's just, I just wish it deserved a bit better.
Okay.
Because Ghostbusters is one of my favourite. It's one of your favourite kids'
seemingly timeless as this.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You can watch this film till the day you die.
The thing is, though, why put a restoration into something and spend a load of money when you know it's going to sell regardless of what you do with it?
Well, that is true.
You don't have to bother, do you?
No, that's true.
Recommendations and verdict.
Well, this verdict is, this movie is big! It's big! We're big!
It's certainly big. Do you have any recommendations to go?
No.
Companions? Because I think Monster Squad.
Frighteners?
Frighteners, definitely.
Perhaps, off the top of my head.
I love the Frighteners, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a ghosty one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Monster Squad.
Monster Squad.
Yeah,
maybe...
that was a kids' 80s.
Yeah. Also maybe like Men in Black, because you've got basically
same sort of thing.
Ghostbusters in New York.
Although I do hate the Men in Black films. I don't like them.
Well, we're going to have to do Men in Black. Gremlins is a comedy horror from Joe Dante. A quick synopsis. Inventor Randall Peltzer visits an antique store in Chinatown looking to find a unique Christmas gift for his son Billy. Randall is introduced to a small creature called a mogwai and immediately falls in love with it. Though the shop owner refused to sell the creature, the store owner's grandson secretly sells the Mogwai to Randall behind the grandfather's back.
Yeah, short round.
Warning him to follow 3 rules. Do not expose the Mogwai to sunlight. Do not let it come into contact with water. And above all, do not feed it after midnight. Randall returns home and gives the Mogwai to a delighted Billy, where it's renamed Gizmo.
Yes.
When Billy's friend Pete accidentally spills water onto Gizmo, 5 more Mogwai spawn from its back. Where Gizmo is docile and serene, these 5 Mogwai are boisterous. Apparently or seemingly led by Stripe, named because he bears a peculiar tuft of hair. Billy is tricked into feeding the 5 Mogwai after midnight, where they cocoon, emerging as destructive reptilian monsters dubbed Gremlins. All hell breaks loose as the Gremlins cause havoc around the wintry Kingston Falls. Where's the Gremlins?
Great. I love this film.
I adore this film.
So do I.
When did you first see it?
I first saw it probably 85, I think.
I think I saw it, yeah.
I think it was about 85 because my stepdad Tim, when my mum was married to her second husband at the time, and he worked offshore,
right.
And he used to bring. I don't know if you know this. In the old days, they used to have films that were not out of the cinema and stuff, and you'd have them on VHS. And the guys on the rig, because they were out to sea and they were in the,
and you couldn't.
They could watch them because they didn't really apply to any laws.
Right. Oh,
you see?
you're at sea.
Yeah.
Pirates.
Yeah. So Tim came back, and what one of the guys would do is he would copy the tapes for the guys that worked on the rig, so they could take them home to the family. Yeah,
naughty.
And the 2 he happened to copy Gremlins and Ghostbusters.
Oh,
so consequently, these were 2 films that I had access to nearly every single day.
That's why you recommended this episode.
Exactly. I literally watched one day and one the next in the afternoons when I got home from school and things like that, or maybe in the morning before I went to school. I would watch Gremlins. As I said, this film was amazing. It really appealed to me. These horrible little demons, because you could have done with this with demons, couldn't you? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. I mean, they are kind of
they are demonic, aren't they?
Yeah,
little
kind
things.
of demonic.
Yeah.
Evil things.
Like the thing with Mrs. Deagle. One of Mrs. Deagle's cats is called Dollar Bill, which is the most amazing thing, and they didn't need to put that touch in.
No,
but I just love the fact that we know
that
she knows she's wicked, and she knows they're coming for him.
Oh God!
So to her, they're little devils coming to take her to hell.
Oh, I love Polly Holiday as Miss Deagle. She's a right old bag.
Oh,
I love old
where
bags.
is your dog?
Oh, so good.
And you also hear on the TV at the end that Mrs. Deagle's husband, who you see the big photo of on the wall when she's going up this,
she's a crazy cat lady though.
Her husband was a swindler.
Oh, no,
he was a real estate swindler, they mention, which I think is brilliant, because I'm just like, that's a lovely little bit of detail that you get from the people in the...
Yeah.
It's just, Joe Dante was just so brilliant putting that in. And to be honest, I mean, I know we were going to go to a HorrorCon before, unfortunately, COVID happened.
We were going to meet him at a HorrorCon.
We were going to meet Joe Dante, and I would have loved to have been able to say to him, thank you for my childhood.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for this movie, because...
Thank you for this and the sequel as well, The New Batch.
Oh,
which I hold...
God, I love that film. I love both.
Very maligned, because it's chaos.
Well, believe me, I could see this at the cinema. I could see Gremlins 2 when that came out. I was old enough to see that.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it.
Yeah. So I was old enough to see that, and I was in there like a shot. I saw in a cinema magazine.
Yeah.
There was a little, the little goofy one from Gremlins 2, the little goofy one with the goggly eyes.
Yeah.
With googly eyes. I saw a picture of him in a cinema magazine, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's going to be another Gremlins! This is the best thing ever!"
This is my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I found out about Gremlins 2 and Die Hard 2 in like the same magazine.
I know. I was so jealous of my auntie, because she went to see Die Hard 2.
Oh.
And I'd seen Die Hard on Sky, and I was like, the names I wanted to call my auntie, because her and her husband at the time went to see it, and I was just thinking, and she went to see Fatal Attraction as well, and that was another film at the time I wanted to see.
Fatal Attraction episode coming.
And I was like, oh, you're going to see these films I really want to see. But anyway, as I said...
Trailer.
Yeah, sorry about the tangent. When they're in the cocoons, I think the practical effects are so good, because you could literally smell that horrible, putrid, yucky, almost like an infection smell coming out of these.
That horrible stinky fog coming off it as well. Yeah.
And then that goes straight into that incredible kitchen scene.
Yeah. Oh,
do you hear what I hear?
Okay. Frances Lee McCain plays Lynn Peltzer, the mother of the family kind of thing. She's the MVP of the whole thing. Oh, she slaughters like 3 of them.
I know.
The kitchen.
And do you know one of my favourites in this?
She kills one with a mixer. She stabs one on the kitchen counter, and she microwaves one.
Yep.
Amazing.
My favourite one is the one she stabs because she doesn't kill him.
She just...
If you look in the background when she's got the other one in the microwave, he's in the background laying there like twitching and wobbling about, where she's just stabbed him enough to keep him down. She's like laying there bleeding to death.
Yeah, 30 holes in him.
I know.
Amazing. She's about to get strangled by one with the Christmas tree light cord. But then Billy uses the foreshadowed sword on the wall.
Yes.
Like
that's another great one, isn't it?
To decapitate it.
Yeah, and it goes in the fire.
It goes in the fire and
melts.
it's still like screaming.
Yeah, melts.
Incredible.
And then that follows on with you see Stripe and he blows his nose on the curtains. I love that. Just to show what a scumbag he is.
I love Joe Dante. I'm a big fan of his work as well. So,
yeah.
We were literally saying last week in the Matrix episode that the Matrix was a sort of live action anime.
Yeah.
This is like a live action Looney Tunes, only
it is, yeah.
Albeit viscerally, deplorably, gleefully violent.
Yes. And of course it's also tongue in cheek because it's
very juvenile.
Again, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I could see this being perhaps annoying for some viewers. They might find that kind of silly humour to be quite annoying.
Right.
I could get that maybe. I love it. It's right down my street.
I mean, my favourite scene is Dory's Tavern.
Is the Dory's Tavern sequence
the music,
where they're just
and the Gremlins doing the
serving them.
Yeah, I know. And you know the weirdest thing is, right? There's Gremlins that have got cigarettes on the go.
Yeah.
But when she goes to light one of their things, it backs away because of the light, right?
Yeah.
So how did they get the other cigarettes on the go?
I don't know. There's one literally helping himself. You can see his belly.
Oh yeah, no, that's lovely, isn't it? That's brilliant.
Himself off the tap.
That's such a great effect where his belly starts to.
There's one like
It's like my dad's belly, isn't it?
Oh, you leave your dad alone.
My dad's got that beer belly. That's my dad's gremlin. That one, the beer belly one.
Hey Huey, it's very very messy. To be, all things considered, it's very very messy. It's very self-indulgent, but it all comes together really well.
Yeah.
Obviously, at first it's a bit sort of scattered. It's a bit, as I say, fractured.
Also, that scene with where he where what's her name, Phoebe Cates' character tells Billy about the story to do with her father.
Yeah,
that's incredibly serious.
It's really bleak.
In the middle of what is kind of a bit of a comedy horror.
So Phoebe Cates plays Kate.
Kate, yeah.
Her backstory, and it sort of revealed that she has a disliking for Christmas.
That's right, yeah.
And the reason why, the backstory is because, and it's horrific, her father was killed while pretending to be, or sort of died while pretending to be Santa.
He broke his neck getting down the chimney as Santa.
Pretending to be Santa. So yeah, that's why she doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So what do you think of Zach Galligan as
Billy? I think to be honest, I mean I don't think he's the best actor in the world, but I think he suits the role.
I think
really suits the role. And to
wide-eyed
be honest,
boy who becomes a man.
Yes.
Yeah.
He really has to. And also I like the fact that he stands up and he realises, hang on a minute, I've kind of caused this crap, so
I'm mostly responsible.
I'm responsible for it,
even though I was tricked.
Yeah. Corey Feldman tricked me with that.
Well, it's not that. So Corey Feldman's character
is a doofus.
He's in the neighbour, and he accidentally spills water, which spawns 5 more.
But he's tricked by the Mogwai.
So the Mogwai, the 5 Mogwai that spawn from that actually trick Billy by unplugging his.
His
alarm clock. So it reads it reads a certain time before midnight. He then feeds them, and it happens to be after midnight, and they just turn to these.
Yeah, because if they hadn't done that, I don't think Billy. I think Billy's quite a sort of responsible person. I don't think he would.
I don't think. No. You say it's all his fault, and I get it, but it's not really.
No, but I suppose because he's responsible.
Yeah,
he feels because Gizmo. They're very ugly, aren't they, Mogwai, in some ways?
Oh, I think they're sweet.
Do you not think there's some scenes where Gizmo looks particularly ugly?
To be fair,
he pulls some ugly faces.
I think, he's really expressive.
He is.
I think it's quite a thing to be commended for, because the puppetry and the models are fantastic.
Lovely.
Excellent.
Especially that bit when he first comes out and he blinks his eyes and that.
Right, there's one that's skateboarding that I just can't work out how they did as well.
The one with skateboard. Oh yeah, when the gremlins on his
but I it's so expressive. The puppetry is really good. I disagree. I think they actually really look good.
I think they look good, but I think Gizmo isn't. He's one of those characters that kind of can look really super cute,
right?
But then other times look a bit kind of uglier, you know?
Fine. Yeah, fair enough. I think there's a sort of alien invasion theme to this as well. There's even a scene from The Blob briefly featured on a black and white TV. They're watching The Blob.
No, it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yeah, the seed pods.
Yep, there we are. These are reptilian alien invaders.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, come out of pods.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Again, going back into things we were just talking about with things with Ghostbusters, there's themes of like perhaps degradation and corruption going on.
Right.
Like these are. So Kingston Falls is a fairly quiet and respectable town. Suddenly, there's this aspect that is, these unruly figures come into the town and cause all kinds of chaos.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of social corrosion going on in there, I think, as well. Please no Gremlins 3. Please no Gremlins 3.
Unless Joe Dante's agreeing to do it.
If he's going to do it, then fair enough.
Yeah, but if not, no. And if you're not going to get Zach Gallagher in it, yeah, don't bother.
I don't want a reboot. I don't want a reboot. I don't really want a third. I certainly don't want a reboot. And I know that the Gremlins would be CG, and I know it would be.
See, this is the problem. They
have Ryan Reynolds.
They use CG. Like anywhere that they're going to use, like even if they wanted to do it in a traditional style, anywhere that they're going to use the Gremlins from afar, they're going to use CG.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want it. I really, really don't want it. Please don't make it.
There's also a scene that I noticed where they're in the swimming pool area where they're trying to get to the things to turn the lights on. Yeah. And there is a terrible stuffed Gizmo in Billy's back.
Sure.
And I think to myself, you put all that effort into the detail of like all the puppetry, and then just for one scene, you couldn't have a half decent just model sitting in his back.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, it literally looks like a stuffed toy.
Sure. I don't have a... Again,
we've got to have some bad things about the film too.
Yeah, so, don't get me wrong. I've said it's quite...
I hated to bring that up, to be honest, because I love this film, and
I love it to death.
As long as I'm concerned, I think this is a perfect movie. So
it's right. This is right up my alley.
Yeah,
this is right up my street. That you have no idea, but credit where it's due, kind of thing. It is really messy.
Yeah, and also it's one of those films that's sort of an offbeat sort of Christmas movie.
Yeah,
because it's not the traditional sort of lovey-dovey people fall in love rubbish that they usually put in Christmas films.
Oh no! So Kingston Falls looks familiar.
It looks like from Back to the Future, doesn't it?
Because it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought so. I was going to say there's a scene where Billy's standing there, and I'm like thinking, look at the back where the cinema is, and I'm thinking, I swear that's where the DeLorean goes.
Yeah, it really is. It's a Universal Studios backlot known as Courthouse Square. And it was constructed in like the late 40s. It's been up for yonks.
Okay.
And was.
So could we believe that this actually happened in the same place?
Happened in the same universe as Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But it was also used in To Kill a Mockingbird and Batman and Robin and Jingle All the Way and Weird Science and all these other ones.
Okay.
If that's one big connected universe with
Wouldn't
Jingle
that be
All the Way and Back to the Future.
There's boys making
Batman,
gorgeous women out of dollies in their bedroom, and then there's Batman. There's time travellers,
Mogwai running around,
teen time travellers.
What do you? I just back to the performances. What do you think of Hoyt Axton as Randall?
I love him.
I love his voice.
I love his voice. He's got one of those.
I think he was a popular musician in real life. Yeah, I think so.
I just love his laid back thing for the whole thing. It's like the mother is slightly sort of up the wall. She's a bit emotional.
Yeah, she's
and
great.
And he comes in the house and he's all like, hello everybody,
She slaughters 3 of them.
I know.
Like, horribly.
She does. I love the stabbing one.
I would buy all of Randall's inventions and I would love to taste that horribly syrup coffee from his coffee maker that he invents.
I actually quite like the egg one where it cracks all the eggs and she just goes, use this thing. And he's just standing there like... Oh.
Did you notice the Spielberg cameo?
Yes, at the convention.
He's got like his leg in a cast, doesn't he?
Something like that. He's in a little car.
He's in a little bicycle thingy.
Yeah. Thing that's going round. And there's Robbie the Robot, isn't there?
Robbie the Robot.
From Forbidden Planet.
Howie Mandel voiced Gizmo.
He did.
Which is quite cool.
Which is really weird, because Howie Mandel, when you see him as just a regular person, he has a phobia of germs.
Oh, does he?
So when he comes out for America's Got Talent, he doesn't touch people as he comes out, like touch their hands.
Oh.
Because he's phobic. And he doesn't like touching people either, like hugging them.
To be fair, I don't like
No. But the reason you don't like doing it is because you don't know what people are touching, and
people are a bit grim.
Germs are around, and no, he's got a phobia about it, which I thought was quite unusual.
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't know you could have a phobia about that.
Or germs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough. What do you think of Jerry Goldsmith's score?
Brilliant.
Who we discussed Jerry Goldsmith in The Omen before. For the longest time, it might have been like maybe when I watched this during lockdown.
Right.
So it would have been like 3 years ago. I always thought that John Williams did the score.
Did you?
I always just, in my brain, just thought, oh yeah, John Williams.
Well, you know why?
Incredible Gremlins score.
Because there's so much sort of Spielberg in it.
It just feels like a John Williams score.
It does.
It's brilliant.
It is brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an unforgettable. I mean, if somebody says do the Gremlins, it's everybody knows it.
There's that energy, but he also captures this kind of weird tension to it as well.
Yeah,
There's
and
this
creepiness.
Kind of
Creepiness, yeah.
Yeah.
That eeriness, yeah.
So, what's your verdict?
Well, this movie is small because they're little gremlins, but in their hearts, it's big. Small characters, big movie.
The sequel is fantastic and highly recommended if you enjoy this.
It's got Christopher Lee in it as a crazy scientist.
It's got Hulk Hogan in it briefly as well.
It has. I want to talk about Mr. Futterman as well.
Oh, please.
Mr. Futterman.
Before we close.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Futterman lives a very, very miserable life.
Yeah.
His wife is one of the most optimistic, positive people.
Yeah, upbeat people.
And she's like, hey, Murray. Hey. And he is so miserable. He's so something's happened to the antenna. Can't see. And they're watching the crappiest, like their home is done up really badly, like quite sort of tacky.
Yeah.
For Christmas.
Sure.
And then there's, he's sitting there watching some daft program, and to be honest, the highlight of their evening was getting trampled by, by that truck, wasn't it? By that.
I love Dick Miller, who plays Mr. Futterman.
That was the highlight. And I quite like you hear at the end that Mr. Futterman lives, that he was hospitalised.
Yeah.
So.
I
quite like the fact he comes back with PTSD, for the sequel. And like, oh no, we don't mention those little men,
Yeah, he's the guy that gets sniped by the flying one, right?
Yes, by the bat one.
The gargoyle.
Yeah,
one.
the gargoyle. Because he's terrified. He's terrified, and they're coming down from the sky. He can't get away from them.
I love it.
Yeah.
As we say, the sequel is fantastic and highly recommended.
I really want a 4K of Gremlins 2 because I'm so on that.
I'd be all over that.
Yeah.
The chaos and the silliness is just dialed up to 100 in that.
It's just one of those films that, like, you can't really watch and have anything on your mind, because whatever's on your mind is gone. You know what I mean? When you start to watch it.
Gremlins 2, the new batch, is just chaos.
Yes.
It's like, if this is like a Looney Tunes cartoon, it's that times 11.
I mean, Gremlins 2, if you want to just forget about everything, literally just put that on.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to think about anything.
Highly recommended. Gremlins 2.
Yeah.
There were imitators, but they're not masterpieces. But I do have a soft spot for the Critters films.
Oh, I've got Critters. as a recommendation, and Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Ghoulies is really good as well.
Ghoulies, yeah.
Join us again as we enter the Spider-Verse with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Ooh.
He were Jason, I were John. You can find me on Letterboxd. I am Rat Bastard. How can our lovely viewers find you on Letterboxd?
Well, you can find me on Letterboxd in a dark corner with nothing on my top, just a bare chest.
Don't.
Just showing off that tattoo I paid all that money for on my chest.
Great chest tattoo, to be fair.
I played political. I am Kurgerellon.
Charger Wiggles. Charger Wiggles.
Charger Wiggles. Charger _Wiggles.
How is that spelled?
I'm Kurger_Relon. That's KERJA_RELON.
You can find us on social media.
Yes, and Cinemattractions_podcast on Instagram. And we will be we'll be updating it and letting you know what we will be discussing. So if you guys have anything that you would like us perhaps to discuss, if you have any
that's a good point.
Any great films that you'd like us to do a double on, that fit together,
get in touch.
Get in touch, and we'd love to hear. We're always open to ideas and criticisms.
And just in talking earlier, I'd really like to do a Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct.
Yeah, I'd like that. Yeah, that'd be good.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that so if that's whetting your appetite, anybody out there that's like, I've been waiting for this one. Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct. I've been waiting for it. It's here. It's going to come.
Is there a 4K of Fatal Attraction.
There is, and there is one of Basic
invest.
Instinct too.
Might invest.
Yeah?
Might invest. I've got the Basic Instinct one. Have you got the Basic Instinct
I've
one?
got the Blu-ray.
Okay,
but I haven't
I
got the 4K.
might lend you the 4K. Then.
Oh, well, I'd love to see it.
Until then, be excellent to each other.
Yes, and thank you for listening.
Okay, then, goodbye.
Bye!
I hate this. I like to torture them.